Submariners are extremely reliable. When a submariner says, I'm going to be at a place at a certain time, they're either dead or they're there.
Imagine being 3,000 feet beneath the Atlantic Ocean, trapped in a steel tomb with no way out. No light, no air, no hope.
The USS Scorpion was one of only 2 nuclear submarines ever lost by the U.S. Navy.
For 99 American sailors aboard the USS Scorpion, this nightmare became their final reality on a spring evening in 1968. But what if I told you that for over 50 years, the U.S. government has been lying about how they died? What you're about to discover will shake you to your core. This isn't just the story of a sunken submarine. It's a story of betrayal, cover-ups, and the terrifying price of Cold War secrets. By the end of this video, you'll understand why this revelation could have changed the course of history itself. May 22nd, 1968. The USS Scorpion, a nuclear-powered submarine, is cruising home through the dark Atlantic waters after a routine mission in the Mediterranean. 99 men are aboard, fathers, sons, brothers, all eager to see their families again after months at sea. But something goes terribly wrong. At exactly 1:59 a.m., the Scorpion sends its final message, a routine check-in that should have been followed by many more. But that transmission becomes their last words to the world. The submarine, along with every soul aboard, simply vanishes without a trace. Here's what makes this even more chilling. The Navy knew something was wrong almost immediately. While they publicly maintained that the Scorpion was still on schedule and would arrive in Norfolk on May 27th, behind closed doors, panic was setting in. You see, the U.S. had a secret weapon during the Cold War, an underwater listening network called SOSUS. These hidden microphones scattered across the ocean floor could detect Soviet submarines from thousands of miles away. And on that fateful night of May 22nd, SOSUS operators heard something that made their blood run cold. An explosion, deep beneath the Atlantic. Then another smaller blast. Then, silence. The operators knew immediately what they were listening to, the sound of a submarine's hull collapsing under crushing water pressure. They had just heard 99 men die in real time. But here's the kicker. This information was so classified that it would remain buried for decades.
When it comes to why the Scorpion sank, there is no shortage of theories that claim to explain it.
May 27th, 1968 dawned gray and stormy over Norfolk Naval Base. Despite the rain and howling winds, dozens of families huddled on Pier 22, clutching handmade welcome signs and fighting back tears of joy. They had come to welcome home their heroes. Barbara Foley was there, waiting for her husband. So was Mary Patterson, whose son had just turned 20. These weren't just statistics. These were real people with real hopes, real dreams, real love for the men they thought were coming home. But as the hours ticked by, hope began to fade. 1 p.m. came and went. No submarine, no word. Then at exactly 3 p.m., a Navy officer approached the families with news that would shatter their worlds forever. The USS Scorpion is officially missing. Can you imagine that moment? 1 second you're planning a homecoming dinner, the next you're wondering if you'll ever see your loved one again. The Navy immediately launched the largest search and rescue operation since the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Now units of the Atlantic Fleet have begun a search by submarine, surface ships.
55 ships, countless aircraft, all scouring the Atlantic for any sign of life. But here's what the families didn't know. While they clung to hope, Navy officials already knew the Scorpion's crew was dead. They had the SOSUS recordings. They knew exactly when and where the submarine had imploded. Yet they said nothing. For 5 agonizing months, these families lived in limbo, not knowing whether their loved ones were dead or alive, captured or rescued. The Navy let them suffer, all to protect a secret that would make your stomach turn. October 1968. 5 months after the Scorpion disappeared, the Navy suddenly announced they had found the wreckage using a research vessel called the USS Mizar. Photos were released showing the submarine's broken hull resting on the ocean floor nearly 10,000 feet down. The public called it a miracle of technology. The media praised the Navy's persistence. Finally, closure for the grieving families. But it was all a lie. Declassified documents that surfaced decades later reveal a shocking truth. The Navy had located the Scorpion as early as June 1968, just weeks after it disappeared. Multiple ships had detected sonar echoes of the wreckage during the summer, but the Navy kept quiet about it. Why? Because what they found down there didn't match their official story. The damage to the Scorpion's hull wasn't consistent with an accident or mechanical failure. The metal was twisted and torn in ways that suggested something far more sinister. The Navy had discovered evidence of an attack, but admitting it would risk nuclear war with the Soviet Union. So they waited. They let families suffer in uncertainty for months while they figured out how to spin the story. When they finally announced the discovery in October, they had already sanitized the evidence and prepared their cover story. Think about the callousness of this decision. 99 families were left to wonder and worry while the Navy played political chess with their grief. In June 1968, the Navy convened a formal court of inquiry. On paper, it looked thorough. 76 witnesses, hundreds of pages of evidence, acoustic data from the secret SOSUS network. The families had hope that finally they would get answers. But this investigation was a sham from the beginning. Here's what investigators actually found. Clear acoustic evidence of an external explosion. Not a battery failure, not a mechanical malfunction, but something that hit the Scorpion from outside its hull. The sound signature was unmistakable. This was an attack. But when the final report was released, all mention of this external explosion had vanished. Instead, investigators offered vague theories about mechanical failure and internal flooding. The real evidence was classified so highly that most Navy personnel weren't even allowed to see it. Behind closed doors, a battle was raging. The investigation team wanted to tell the truth, but higher-ups overruled them. The Cold War was at its peak, and admitting that the Soviets had sunk an American submarine could trigger World War III. So the truth was buried. The families were given sanitized lies, and 99 American heroes were denied the recognition they deserved for dying in combat, not in an accident. For decades, the official story held. The Scorpion was lost to mechanical failure, case closed. But whispers never stopped circulating in naval circles, submarine communities, and among the families who refused to accept the lies they'd been told. The theories were as varied as they were chilling. Mechanical failure. Said battery explosions, reactor problems, flooding from a hull breach, but the Scorpion was nuclear-powered and well-maintained. Rogue torpedo said, an internal weapons malfunction that destroyed the sub from within. Possible, but the acoustic evidence didn't match. Soviet attack said, the theory that made the most sense, but the one the government would never admit. You see, the Atlantic in 1968 was an underwater battlefield. Soviet submarines prowled these waters constantly, shadowing American vessels, probing for weaknesses. The area where the Scorpion disappeared was a known hunting ground for Soviet subs. Some insiders claimed that a Soviet submarine had been spotted leaving the area shortly after the Scorpion's last transmission.
There's no doubt in my mind that the Soviet Navy attacked and sank the USS Scorpion.
Others pointed to unusual radio chatter intercepted by intelligence services. But every time someone got close to the truth, they were silenced or discredited. The families deserved answers, but they got decades of stonewalling instead. In 2010, more than 40 years after the tragedy, 2 former Navy radio operators finally broke their silence. These men had been on duty at the Atlantic Submarine Forces Communications Center on the night the Scorpion disappeared, and what they revealed sent shockwaves through the military community. According to their testimony, the night of May 22nd wasn't just about a missed radio check-in. The communication center erupted into chaos as high-ranking officers flooded the facility. They weren't responding to a simple communication delay, they were responding to a crisis of massive proportions. One radio operator revealed the most chilling detail of all. Classified messages had been intercepted that night, suggesting a Soviet submarine had been detected near the Scorpion's position. Even more disturbing, intelligence indicated this foreign vessel had departed the area shortly after the American submarine's disappearance. For the first time in decades, someone was speaking publicly about what really happened that night. The Navy had known about hostile foreign contact from day one, but had buried this information deeper than the Scorpion itself. These brave men risked their reputations and potentially their freedom to finally give the families a glimpse of the truth. But the Navy's official stance never changed. The silence persisted, and critical documents remained locked away. January 2025. After 57 years of lies, cover-ups, and official silence, something unprecedented happened. A massive trove of Cold War naval archives was quietly declassified and buried within thousands of mundane documents. Researchers discovered a cluster of files that would change everything. What they contained was explosive. Navigation charts showing the Scorpion's final voyage with incredible precision. Intercepted radio signals that had been encrypted and hidden for decades. Triangulated data from SOSUS pinpointing unidentified underwater activity. And most damning of all, internal memos from the highest levels of naval command. One memo, dated May 24, 1968, just 2 days after the Scorpion disappeared, was addressed to the commander, Submarine Force Atlantic. Its contents were brief but earth-shattering. Sudden detection of unidentified submerged contact. Foreign submersible operating dangerously close to USS Scorpion's last known coordinates. Contact consistent with hostile presence likely from Soviet naval forces. There it was in black and white. The Navy had known from the beginning that a Soviet submarine was involved in the Scorpion's destruction. They had known their sailors died in combat, not in an accident. And they had chosen to bury the truth for over half a century. The documents revealed internal debates where naval commanders wrestled with an impossible choice: reveal the truth and risk nuclear war, or lie to 99 families and let their loved ones' sacrifice go unrecognized. They chose to lie. As researchers pieced together the full scope of the cover-up, the betrayal became clear. This wasn't just about protecting national security and buy, it was about protecting political careers and avoiding accountability. The USS Scorpion hadn't suffered a mechanical failure. It hadn't been destroyed by a rogue torpedo or internal flooding. It had been deliberately attacked by a Soviet submarine in an act of war. And then the American government had covered it up to avoid escalating Cold War tensions. Think about what this means. 99 American sailors died defending their country in combat, but their families were never allowed to grieve them as the heroes they were. Instead, they were told their loved ones died in an accident, as if their sacrifice meant nothing. Barbara Foley never knew her husband died fighting for his country. Mary Patterson never knew her 20-year-old son was a combat casualty. For 57 years, these families carried the burden of unanswered questions and official lies. The government that these men had sworn to protect had betrayed them in the most fundamental way possible, by denying them the honor they had earned with their lives. When news of the declassified documents began circulating in early 2025, the public reaction was swift and furious. Veterans groups demanded accountability. Families of the lost crew members filed lawsuits seeking justice. Military historians called it one of the greatest betrayals in American naval history. Social media exploded with outrage. Justice for Scorpion trended worldwide as people learned the truth about the 57-year cover-up. Comments poured in from around the globe. These families deserved better. 99 heroes died, and we let their government lie about it for decades. How many other military accidents are actually cover-ups? This makes me sick. Those sailors died in combat defending us, and we let them be forgotten. This is unforgivable. But perhaps the most powerful reaction came from the surviving family members. At a press conference in Norfolk, standing on the same pier where they had waited in vain for their loved ones to return, they spoke with the dignity that their government had never shown them. "We always knew something wasn't right," said one daughter, now in her 60s. "The official story never made sense. Our fathers, our brothers, our sons, they were warriors, not victims of some mechanical failure. Today, finally, we can honor them for what they truly were, American heroes who died in combat." The truth about the USS Scorpion forces us to confront uncomfortable questions about government secrecy, military accountability, and the price of political expediency. How many other families have been denied the truth about their loved ones' sacrifices? How many other heroes have been forgotten because acknowledging their deaths might be politically inconvenient? If this truth had been revealed in 1968, would the Cold War have ended differently? Would nuclear tensions have escalated into actual conflict? We'll never know, but what we do know is that 99 American sailors died as warriors, and for 57 years, their government robbed them of that honor. Today, finally, we remember them not as victims of an accident, but as the heroes they always were. What do you think? Should governments ever be allowed to hide the truth about military casualties, even to prevent war? How would history have changed if this had been revealed in 1968? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story moved you like it moved me, please share it. These 99 heroes deserve to have their true story told, even if it took 57 years for the truth to surface. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.